for me, it was always, who am I behind who I think I am?
Yeah.
Why are we all here? What is this all for? Those are like my three biggest questions. Like, who am I beyond, what I do?
Right. Yes.
What is this really all for? Where can I gather the medicine? Because none of this is making sense, people. Like, my whole life has been that, like, none of this makes sense of why we work so hard. Why is it so hard to be happy? Why is it so hard to be healthy? Why is there so much division? I'm biracial. I'm a straight male in theater, and in the dance world. But I see so much, why can't that be? I've seen so much division in my life, that why can't we accept gay and straight? Why can't we accept black and white? Like, what is programming all of this for there to be more division than unification?
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. It's not often I can say that I'm having somebody on the podcast that I've probably seen at a concert, on a Broadway show, and in many major life events with major artists that I have known and loved to watch perform, and musicals as well. Seth Stewart, you are that person. For the past 2 decades, you've been a performer, performing with likes of Madonna, Jennifer Lopez, so many other big name artists that so many of us love. You have performed in some of the plays and musicals that we all love as well, Hamilton and The Heights. I could name many more, but we'll stop there. And you've worked with TV channels that we all are familiar with as well as a choreographer. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. And I want to unpack a little bit about your journey. Did you always know you wanted to be a performer? And of course, that's not what we're going to focus on as much today, but I want to start there to get to where you are now, which is being a spiritual leader.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always knew I wanted to perform. I mean, I grew up playing sports and dancing, and then it was just kind of always in my heart to just dance and perform. I was always, dancing in front of my family and kind of a show off when I was a kid. And then around like 15 years old, I started to take it more seriously. I just got really inspired by watching other performances, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, I've been able to do it for over 2 decades, and then a lot of life happened in between there. A lot of other journey signals, kind of, vision signals kind of came in through. So, but yeah, I've been lucky to perform with some really amazing shows and really amazing people, and it taught me a lot. It definitely taught me a lot. So,
and I want to first of all, congratulations for having that career and being part of so many people's favorite memories, probably in their lifetimes. You mentioned you were getting signals and visions along the way. And of course, you've made a shift. You still, I believe, help coach high performers. You coach business leaders. You do so many other things. What were those signals that were telling you that this is fantastic and I love my life, but there's something else within me?
Yeah, we'll jump into a quick story time. I was coming back from London. I was doing a very short promo tour for J-Lo, for Jennifer Lopez. And on my flight from London back to New York, I had a complete reality split. My third eye vision opened and split to realize that we are being lied to, that this whole game of life is a bit of illusion, and that there's no way out, that there's another side to this physical reality. And I had a full panic attack for, I don't know, I can't remember how long the flight is from London to New York, but I had a full panic attack from actually being asleep to having this vision to waking up into this vision for probably about a good hour or two. Luckily, I had somebody else there with me to kind of guide me through, but it was hard for me to tell him, like, none of this is real. None of this is real. So that was intense. And, you're on a plane over the ocean. I'm living my dream life of dancing with some big recording artists. And then lo and behold, the universe is like, are you sure about that? Like, You think you're at this is it now. And after my second Broadway show, it was a little bit more gentle because I got called to nature. I got called to the forest, and I, was taking classes, primitive skills classes. And then I ended up, about a year later going to intern at this primitive skills school where we taught people how to make a primitive shelter, how to build fire naturally, and just really living close to the earth, doing sweat lodges. So the sweat lodge really opened me up to hearing Earth Mother. And that was back in 2010, 2010. And so it was almost like every 2 or 3 years, I was just kind of getting this knock on my spiritual door, whether it was aggressive or gentle. And I always honored it. I always would figure out who was at the door, what was at the door, and what I could learn from it.
Yeah. So you're living this duality of the performer, somebody living very much in the world of our capitalist society, and also spirit.
And then the
Yeah.
seeker's journey, the seeker's side. Yes. And
Wow.
still today, I'm still, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm not going to move too fast forward, but I'm still trying to balance both worlds. One in which calls my heart and my vision on the spiritual side, and then the other, which is I can still help people, but is my bread and butter financially. And how much energy can I put into two worlds? And so maybe we'll get into that to help people, because my goal as a guide, as a person, is I'm honest with people. I'm like, I'm not telling you anything that I'm not living, which means I'm not going to give you advice if I haven't actually lived it and experienced it for more than 6 months to a year. I'm not going to guide people or tell people all the fluff without grounding, how to operate, how to integrate it into the real world that we live in and that we have to continue to live in. It's just our consciousness can evolve while doing that. So yeah, had a lot of splits, a lot of reality shifts over that 20-year period. And then after Hamilton, I just took the call. I was done with show business and I went on a 7-year spiritual journey. So that changed. And that's when I started writing my book, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. And that changed everything.
What was that journey comprised of? Did you go, people here, you go to India, you go around the world speaking to different great teachers, learning from other masters. What did that look like for you?
That's a great question. When I was about 3 months out from a contract renewal doing the show, I had a moment backstage, again, came out of nowhere, where I had enough time to take maybe 3-4 sips of water. I maybe had a minute off stage before I had to go back on stage again. And I heard my higher self say, you're going to have to leave to go find your medicine. I was just getting signs. Luckily, I had a great first mentor from, I don't know how many years before, 10, 15 years before, who spoke about, the ancient medicine men and women that would travel to go find their medicine, to go learn from others, to share what they know to others, right, in their medicine wheel. And I got that vision backstage at Hamilton. I was 3 months out from my contract, and I was like, well, I guess this is my last Broadway show. Actually, I knew that was my last Broadway show. And when I left, I immediately just started traveling and camping with friends. I was in the mountains pretty much all the time. I'd work here and there to teach, maybe to go back and teach dance classes and acting classes when needed. I went to Peru a bunch. I went to a lot of sacred sites all over the States, all over the world, and was really internal and quiet. I mean, I was having a lot of fun. And that was for about a solid 3 years. And then the following 3 years just happened to be the years of the pandemic. And I was on property that I had purchased and was planning on caretaking. I don't like the idea of owning land. I just don't believe it. I say it for lack of a better term, but the caretaker of this land where I'm currently at, and was just living by myself mostly for 3 years and slowly building an off-grid cabin. So I had about 3 years of heavy travel, 3 years of being in the forest by myself, building, writing my book, and still traveling when I could. And that 7 years was more of a magnum opus, a culmination. Okay, what have I learned? What can I really leave behind? And I share, all of this in detail in the book, but I didn't go to India. I didn't feel called to India. My coding is not in India, but I know there's a lot of great teachers there. For me, it was South America. For me, it was South and North America. And so there's still other places left to go see, but it was really about getting internal and listening to my highest self in God of what I could do. And turns out the biggest thing I could do was just be within the world and within nature. And it was an amazing, beautiful, and terrifying 7 years.
I can imagine. But one thing I'm hearing is that even from the beginning, you didn't really question it, that you were a seeker and that you were meant to go on a quest. You accepted it.
I did accept it. Yeah. And, you know, that's a really great catch. I had never caught that before. Was I nervous? Did I second guess? Yeah, we all do. I mean, I think I did, but there was just something where it was just like, okay, this
Mhm.
is what's getting ready to happen. And how do you confirm that that's the right thing for you? It's just something, the same way you're going to try a relationship or come out of a relationship, or a job is good for you and not good. Like, there's just an internal compass that I had worked on it years prior. I'd been working on this my heart, my internal compass, listening to my heart outside of my mind. So it was already tuned. It's a muscle. It's already tuned. So I knew that call compared to maybe my mind or tricks being played on me. So, there's another call that's getting ready to happen, I think, in my life, and I don't know what it is. So, yeah, very limited resistance, because when you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. But I think what's interesting about your story is that there are many people in the world, and I think a lot of people who come on the show, they have a pivot point, but usually they're in corporate America, and then their health fails and they realize they have to make big changes, right? And something happens on that side of it's not often that I hear that, of course, yes, you had a panic attack, you had some splitting, but it's not often that I just hear the acceptance and the, oh yeah, I am this person, but I'm also this person. And I need to finish, I need to follow this path, and that you do it without resistance.
Yes, yes. I mean, unfortunately, corporate America is still very much involved in the arts, whether it's television, film, or theater. So the way that the industry is run kind of has burned me out. But more than that, I know that for me, it was always, who am I behind who I think I am?
Yeah.
Why are we all here? What is this all for? Those are like my three biggest questions. Like, who am I beyond, what I do?
Right. Yes.
What is this really all for? Where can I gather the medicine? Because none of this is making sense, people. Like, my whole life has been that, like, none of this makes sense of why we work so hard. Why is it so hard to be happy? Why is it so hard to be healthy? Why is there so much division? I'm biracial. I'm a straight male in theater, and in the dance world. But I see so much, why can't that be? I've seen so much division in my life, that why can't we accept gay and straight? Why can't we accept black and white? Like, what is programming all of this for there to be more division than unification? Never made sense to me in my entire life. So I wanted to seek that, and I've sought that, and I've realized, I think, as many people have, and this is before, social media it is today, that there's a lot of programming that was preset for our society, not for the earth. The earth is fine. And I think that was the biggest relief for me on my journey. If you're in nature, if you're in the forest, you tend to be around people. There could be more chance for unification for people that are living close to the earth, but she's always going to be fine. But society has many, many programs that have been created decades and centuries ahead of when we even got here. And we can only deprogram ourselves and attune back to nature and God in order to not be manipulated and maneuvered by these covert and not so covert programming that strains our energy and our money and our time from living a beautiful life and away from our families and fun.
Yeah, and to your point, it can get it's so easy to get caught up in that. I've had times in my life when I've been very caught up in that. How much do you have? How much are you giving publicly? How much are you going out? How much are you dressed? And I'm sure you've come across many of the same things. And I know from myself coming back to LA after living somewhere else, and then the pandemic really helped me remember who I am, like many people, right? And get back to those are not the important things and start to reset. And I think that a lot of people are going through this reset, but they don't necessarily know where to start. They're not necessarily tuned in to being able to say yes, to seek, right? And so that's kind of one of the areas that you're living in now with True Kings Academy
Mhm.
and helping people through coaching, through different practices. So what does your day-to-day look like now that you still, have one foot in performing and your bread and butter, but you have your book, that is your memoir, and you are doing everything you can to put wellness into the world.
So True Kings Academy is a community for men where we have coursework, and next year I'll be starting physical in-person retreats. Had it for about 3 years, but this year was very, very slow, to be honest with you. For whatever reason that might be, it may not be the timing for where I wanted it to be, right? But I've run the course. I still work and I'm in communication with a lot of guys. I still do one-on-one coaching with a couple of guys as well. But the biggest thing I tell them, I was like, as I'm teaching spiritual tools, I'm also teaching for the men, financial tools, like how to invest where they can, because we are the protectors and the providers. And I think, we have a lot more expectations on us and for us, but it's also necessary, to start True Kings Academy. When I asked God what is needed, he said, help the men, because men were behind in their healing, as opposed to women were mostly in the medicine circles, the healing spaces, to where there might only be about 3% of men. So that was the initiation of why to create that. And now a lot of men are waking up. They're dealing with the loneliness, the what is it all for? But really it's to, be an anchor of light, be a divine male, meaning you're connected to God, to at least be supportive, whether you're, again, gay, straight, black or white, it doesn't matter, to be an anchor of God in the male form and a male essence, in order to be able to hold up the divinity of the divine feminine and to create balance again for men and women to co-lead together. It doesn't mean we need to be in a relationship. To be co-leading with your sister, your aunt, or your just community, somebody you work with. It's being a protector, being a foundation to give women a voice again and be their backup, because you all are so much more intuitive in so many ways. And so with True Kings, I help who I can, and it's something I'm going to continue to build for the rest of my life. It's part of one of my major callings, and so men then have these spiritual experiences. I also ground them and I say, but hey, guess what? Your mortgage still needs paid. Your rent still needs paid. And the glass ceiling to me, in my opinion, the glass ceiling for the spiritual community broke in 2020. And then I think this year as well, where we thought we were all just going to leave and like elevate, and that things were going to change on the physical level. And I think everybody has realized, oh, we have to pay rent. So unless you're willing to go live in a van or a bus on a farm with somebody that's already growing food, it's very hard to do it all the time unless you make a business of it. I don't always want to make my spiritual gifts or providing for men, even though there is an exchange. I don't want to make it so expensive, but I don't always want to make a business out of it. So that's what this year's been, is let me stick with what I know, where I have 2 decades of experience. And with the men, even though on my spiritual trainer, I've had 12 plus years of experience. I'm trying to balance the two. But the hardest thing I think for people to hear when they're on their journey or when they come back is like, yeah, you still need some form of income, even if it is your own business, even if it is a business that is here to help humanity as a whole. So everything I do is still coaching others to make their lives better. I help the men so they can live happier, healthier lives and supportive lives of everyone around them. And then I help performers so that the dreamers don't get lost, because we still need dreamers in this world. We still need storytellers.
Absolutely.
But now we need storytellers who are in touch with themselves and their heart and are doing it for the love of storytelling and the love of being a vessel for God, as opposed to always doing it for ego.
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen where ego gets you. And in this world, ego can get you very far in what we see in the media and other places.
Mm-hmm.
But when we break it down to just the essence of self,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see a bigger awakening of people who are wanting to get back in touch with themselves and will need to understand the things that you are putting out into the world. Because we see a lot of, like you said, we see a lot of divisiveness right now. We see a lot of people trying to tear people apart. We don't see a lot of people caring about the earth, taking the time to ground themselves in the dirt and enjoy life, right? Be joyful and grateful for these lives that we have and what we can put into them for others. And so this is a time where I think we're going to start seeing that shift even more profoundly than we have thought in past times that we were going to see it.
Yeah. I think people can have a mix of both. I think that we do need the warriors. We need the fighters. I think people do need to stand up and fight. And fighting could be vocal, but be aware that, what you're fighting for and how a vocal fight, it can be a very slippery slope. It's a razor's edge. So fight for what you believe in without making sure that you are not opposing somebody else's way of living, right? Fight for what you know is true, but we do need fighters. We can't all become submissive, but then there are space holders, right? Then there's space holders that they don't say anything. They just simply hold space in a safe environment so nothing's flying around. We need healers, but ultimately everybody does need to go touch the earth, every single person, and ground. And for an extended period of time can be just a whole day, not on the phone, not anything. Listen to the birds, watch the deer. Even in LA, there's deer. Even in, upstate New York, there's deer. You only have to go about 45-minute train ride. Touch and remember the earth, and remember that you are only a smidgen of a molecule and her whole beingness. You are on a living planet. So we're going to move through some much more major shifts over these next few years. And simple grounding technique is most important. Daily prayer or gratitude if you don't want to pray. Gratitude is a form of prayer. Because I think we're all struggling with, what is this all for still? What am I working so hard at my job for to barely make it? What is, I'm working so hard on my spiritual skills when I don't see it in the world. And I do know that being an anchor of light, working on yourself, keeps you one step or two steps outside of the madness of what is going on in the world. You're an anchor. You're a sanctuary. So I think we need to prepare for these shifts, continued shifts. Ask ourselves, when do I need to fight? When do I need to resolve and just take care of myself? And this is somehow, some way, a major part of the awakening process, even though it's going to be a little bit ugly. But birth hurts. Rebirth hurts. It hurts.
What are some things that somebody can do? Not everybody's going to have the epiphanies that you've had, right? And hear the call and heed the call. So what are some things that people can engage in now, even if somebody's listening and they're feeling some resistance to this? What are some simple practices that they can put in just to scan themselves and see what's going on and tune in better with themselves and with the earth?
Ask yourself, how am I feeling? The sacred question. Ask yourself the sacred questions. How am I feeling? And you really have to take about a good 20, 30 minutes to kind of drop from your mind and into your heart when you ask that question. So you're actually asking your heart, how am I feeling? And this was something I've been doing since 2010. I've done a bunch of meditation practices, but this is the easiest one. It doesn't conflict with any spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs. How am I feeling? And allow your heart to speak. And you do it daily. How am I feeling? How am I feeling? Something might come up, old trauma. Something might come up. I'm really frustrated with where the world is. I'm really sad that this is going on in whatever part of the world. Okay. That might come up from asking the sacred question, how am I feeling? Then number two, you follow up. It might be 2-3 days later. How can I heal this old trauma, these negative thought forms I have about myself, the people I have to deal with on a day to day? How can I heal this? And then your heart might say, relax. Or your heart might say, go bowl, go to a movie, go eat pancakes at IHOP. It might say something completely ridiculous, but if you follow, you're going to be like, oh my God, I love pancakes. And I know it sounds so silly and so cliche. Or it might say, go pray to the water, go talk to the trees.
Mm.
Those are two very simple sacred questions that everybody can do. How am I feeling? How can I heal this?
Wow.
Or the third one could be, what is needed of me? And through a dream, you might call your friend John, check on them, right? One of the biggest things we can do, it's just always proof when we're going through our own mental, whatever, discombobulation, frazzledness. One of the easiest things we can do is help others, right? And so being in service in even times where we don't feel good can be a reflective point for us to come back to gratitude, and while still giving service. It's a reciprocal energy. So you can ask those three sacred questions. How am I feeling? How can I heal this? Or what is needed of me? And when you come home from the day, just like imagine just like a white light shower, like spiritual hygiene, a white light shower, taking everything off of you before you get in the door. So you bring the outside in, like you'd take off your shoes. And when you go out for the day, same thing. Run some white light over yourself. Imagine a little, protective cloak around you. So it's no matter what goes on to the day, you are isolated from any negative energetic residue. Lasting gratitude. Gratitude for the trees, gratitude that you have food, gratitude that you have 10 fingers. I'm so serious. It's these simple practices on a daily basis that will get us back to that groundedness. So sacred questions, just imagine yourself cleaning yourself with white light energetically, gratitude and or prayer.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think people would realize just making these small tweaks in your schedule every day, these what we would consider maybe little practices, can add up to something so much bigger.
That's been the case in any great tradition across the world. You can look at it. One of the biggest things they always say, chop wood, carry water, do every day, or meditate. The monks meditate every day. And our Western society doesn't have ceremonial practices, which is one of the biggest reasons why we're suffering. We don't have gratitude practices outside maybe people going to church on Sunday. So we can have gratitude for the sun. We can have gratitude for the earth. And maybe you only got one friend. Be really grateful to that friend. Take them out to dinner, Be in ceremony with yourself, self-care, like that's, self-affirmations of loving yourself. Be in ceremony more, whatever westernized way that is for anyone listening.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you're sharing. And I'd like to learn a little bit about, because you hinted earlier that a lot of stuff is in your book, and your book did just come out recently.
Yes.
Again, it's Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. What led you to say, or was it spirit also guiding you, to say, you need to write this book. This is the time. This is the moment.
Yeah. I was a heavy journaler. I journaled a lot all the time anyways. And it was for me to reflect back. It's like tracking. I called it was personal tracking. So like I lived in the forest probably collectively for like 4 years of my life, if I add it all together, like literally living mostly outside. And that might be in a tent or whatever. Right. But, and so I had to learn how to track the animals. So I had to figure out what were those hooves, were those mountain lions. It's called tracking. So journaling is a way to track yourself. So what I noticed is when I journal a lot, I could go back and say, dang, I really had some of these same negative depreciating thoughts 2 years ago. Oh, I've been wanting that dream from 5 years ago. Oh, I didn't do the things I said I was going to do. Let me get on it. Right. So I was always journaling. As people will read my book, I'm very grateful they love my book because it's very personal, because it's like you're going into my journals, just a lot more organized and less chaotic than other written. But the first 3 or 4 years of writing it was just to log my journeys of Peru, of plant medicine, of everything I was going through, ET experiences with friends, you name it, a lot of weird stuff, but I ground it all, right? Like I don't go too far out there, but these real things have happened with other people. So, it's real. It's too many people experience some of the same things at once. And I didn't want to release a book. I started writing the book for myself. And it was about the 4 year mark, after like slowly writing it for 4 years, God was like, you need to let this go. And I wanted to do it anonymously. And like, I could just hear me like, nope, like put it out there with your name and I realized so that other people can feel safe to share their story. They know I'm a grounded person. They know I get weird and awkward with, some of, as you'll read, but ultimately, like I ground stuff. Like, yeah, I've had these wild experiences, but let's be real. Like I still have to pay my mortgage. So I think there was some of that. So, I only listen to God, like spirit and stuff like that. There's, God is the ultimate great mystery authority. And so I do things for reasons that I don't always understand. But again, I feel like I'm at another chapter. So I understand the hesitancy for people, because I'm at the other chapter where I'm like, oh, shoot, like I know something big's about to be asked of me again. I'm willing to answer it, but I'm nervous. So the nervousness doesn't go away. Just to let people know, I really want to change my life again to answer this call. But you know what? As scary and as dreadful as it sometimes is, there's always magic on the other side. And that's one of the biggest things for my journeys and my book. When you follow your heart, when you follow your vision, when you follow your truth, there's always magic on the other side on that journey.
When it comes to your brand, if you will, did people that you knew get confused about the duality of your brand? And along with that question, how was it launching both True Kings Academy and Performer's Edge? Were you able, I imagine Performer's Edge, you're a known quantity. That might have been a little easier
Yes.
than trying to launch a platform for men who may or may not be ready to receive this information.
Yes. That's a really great question. And it's something that I have toiled with for about the last 2 years. And I've just kind of, while still building it, and I've just come to the point where it is what it is. I love working with men and seeing the light bulbs go off. I love helping them come into a rites of passage. That's why I can't wait to run retreats. There's nothing like tactile, carving wood and building stuff. And while, talking around spiritual stuff or finance stuff around a fire, I think about those experiences with the men, which is my draw, right? I think about what do I want to do on a daily basis or once every couple months. I think about the experience, right? And that brings me back to my heart. And then I think about the performers. There's a whole nother next generation coming up. If I don't say something, they may not have as much fun. They may not know what to look for. So I feel like it's like a protector in me in both ways, where I'm like, and realistically, now that the brands are up, now that it's all up, for me, it's not hard to manage it. Like it will get to a point where it will be easy to manage. So I'm kind of in a surrender state again, where it may not make sense to people, kind of having this, he lives between two worlds. But I believe for a brand, if you're about that life, whatever your brand is, and you keep showing up for these things, your audience will find you.
Mm-hmm.
These parents that work with these students, when I work with these students in Performer's Edge, I have to work with their parents, because the parents are half of the equation for them to learn how their student is going to grow in this industry, right? Their parents are going to be like, oh, he's helping men, like step into their heart. Okay, that's cool. The men are going to be like, oh yeah, he tells us to run a business or keep some form of cash flow while we're doing this. Unless you did it right and saved. I saved. That's why I could go on a 3-year journey. So how it looks, I don't really know right now. I finally let it go. I'm focused on what it will be 5 years from now, which I think the ultimate spine to my brand as Seth Stewart is he cares about people. He likes to coach people from his actual experience and in some form or fashion, keeping their fire lit, keeping the men's fire lit, so they can light other fires, keeping the fires lit in these performers so that we have dreamers, we have great storytellers. That is the spine to my brand. And I think it'll make more sense to people. I don't know, maybe even 2 years.
Yeah.
But I had to let it go.
Yeah.
How it is right now.
I think that's really beautiful. And there is there is a kernel, that a seed that is the same for both constructs. They're just two different audiences.
Yeah.
And I would argue even more than that, right? Because by helping men, you're also helping the women in their lives and other people in their lives very much. And then the women in their lives, if they're not already having some practices, may decide that they also want to join and practice in meditation, in gratitude, in grounding, in things with the men in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because ultimately it's wanting to help others. It's wanting to help others.
Yeah.
And for me, both things are fun. So I'm exhausted. I'm working my tail off to build them so that I can sustain myself and my family, but it doesn't need to be anything crazy. But here's how I look at things. If I already had the money that I dreamed of, or when I get the money, what would I be doing anyways?
Yeah.
And it would be exactly what I'm building right now. So whether the money comes through that
And
or it comes through other investments.
saying that is exactly where anybody would want to be.
Right. So I'm just building what I would love to do if I had all the money in the world anyways. I'd want to help the dreamers, help the men, and with the guys, be fishing and just playing again. So again, they can go home restored and they can light up their households again. So I'm doing what I would want to do. And it took me a good 3 or 4 years to figure out what that was again after returning to society, to be completely honest with you. So your vision might take some time, everybody. But if you keep asking your heart, what would I want to do if I already had all the money? It'll start to guide you, and you might have to take some years to build your brand of whatever it is. It's going to be hard sometimes, but it won't be when you see your future self doing what you love. Then you remind yourself of that every day. All we get to do is be keepers of light here on this planet. It's one of the other biggest things I've learned. You're only here to keep your light lit and to light up as many other people as you can. We may not change at all, but we can help.
I have to ask, was any of this in your upbringing?
Yes.
For your yeah. So your parents listened to the side of themselves or people around you?
I was just more, my mom got disowned for marrying a black man in 1970, whatever, like I had I'm one of the first gen biracial kids, so it's like there's a lot of biracial kids, whether they're black and Asian or white and Asian or black and white, we see a lot more of it now. So they believed in something, at that time they believed in love. They were hippies and, 60s and 70s, right? Some, at least in the paradigm of where they grew up, they weren't necessarily hippies, but I think they just encouraged me and my sister to like, do what you want. We didn't have a lot of money. And so I feel like it's like, well, you might as well chase your dreams of whatever it is. So I did have a lot of encouragement to follow what I want to do. But I think I was also just a hard-headed kid. I was going to do it regardless. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that attitude has served you well, and bringing that attitude into the unknown, this next phase that you're waiting to see what's going to happen, is really going to set you up for success, happiness, and everything, acceptance, which you would probably do anyway, but even more so because who knows if it's going to be something that's going to completely throw you for a loop.
Nobody knows anymore. So we're just like, I'm just trying to, energetically and mentally and in my heart, just have my seatbelt on. So whichever way we go, I can put my hands up and go, I don't know. Let's hold on.
Amazing. Well, Seth, I'm going to have iamsethstewart.com linked in the show notes, along with which leads people to Performer's Edge, to True Kings, to your speaking engagements, and to your book
Wes, thank you.
as your source of truth. And you have fantastic pictures on your website as well.
Thank you.
So I always ask one last question. Do you have, and it might be hard to choose one, so it could be one or two, but do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
It's in my book, but it's I guess it's been on repeat in my brain. Short memory, thick skin, which is my football coach told me when I used to get made fun of for wanting to dance. And he was like, if you love dancing, you love football, you know, in life, you're going to have a short memory, whatever they say, let it go, and have a thick skin. It doesn't attach to you. And I think that's one of my favorite quotes. And I think we can all kind of be more flexible moving through life, short memory and a thick skin. And from 4 Agreements, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Do your best. Do your best. But best means your best, not your best.
Absolutely. Well, this has been really inspiring for me. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on Your Brand Amplified, to share some of your journey, your vision, some things that can help each of us move through the day. Whether it's asking the 3 sacred questions, you know, doing a body scan, making sure that we're surrounding ourselves with light, that we're having gratitude and prayer every day in our lives.
Yes. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And thank you to everybody who is listening to this episode or watching it. I hope that you've had a journey and an experience that has brought you peace and that has brought you excitement and joy around what comes next in your life. So, of course, we'll have all of Seth's links if you want to reach out to him, read his book. You'll learn a lot more, and you'll be able to put little practices into place every day that I think will make a big difference in the way we're moving forward, and that we really need to move forward, particularly in this time that we're living in right now. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.